Let's, Vanessa, turn our eyes back to the Middle East and the question of the possibility of expansion of the conflict.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely looking at escalation that we were talking about before Christmas. And from Christmas onwards, we've seen a series of events that have demonstrated the escalation in progress. So first of all, I think that was on New Year's Eve, the US sinks Yemeni boats enforcing the Red Sea blockade against Israel. Of course, Yemen has made it clear that not only will it attack Israeli boats or Israeli-owned boats, but it will attack any vessel that is taking equipment or cargo to Israel itself. And then we've had various threats also from the UK to carry out airstrikes against Yemen. They haven't materialized, and Yemen is quite rightly saying, if you're just going to threaten and you're not going to follow through, how can we have any respect for your statements? So this is published by the White House, a joint statement, what I call the coalition of the unwilling. The United States, Australia, Bahrain, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Germany, Italy, Japan, Netherlands, New Zealand, Republic of Korea, Singapore, and of course the United Kingdom. Noticeable that Saudi Arabia is not on there. It seems to be wanting to focus on fostering peace with Yemen and ending its own proxy war on behalf of the US and the UK against Yemen that started in 2015. So I think within the text of the statement, it's very clear what is actually driving this desire by the US to escalate against Yemen. They claim, of course, it threatens innocent lives. No lives so far have actually been lost in the 25 operations that have been carried out by Yemen and Ansarullah. They constitute a significant international problem that demands collective action. Here we get to the nitty gritty. Let's say nearly 15% of global seaborne trade passes through the Red Sea, including 8% of global grain trade, 12% of seaborne traded oil, and 8% of the world's liquefied natural gas trade. International shipping companies continue to reroute their vessels around the Cape of Good Hope. And then moving on, Mike, so then they basically say, let our message now be clear. We call for the immediate end of these illegal attacks. So it's fine for the US to come to the support of Israel against the Palestinians, but it's not fine for Yemen to retaliate on behalf of the Palestinians against Israel and the United States. We call for the immediate end of these illegal attacks and release of unlawfully detained vessels and crews. The Houthis will bear the responsibility of the consequences should they continue to threaten lives. They said no lives have been lost in the operations. The global economy and free flow of commerce in the region's critical waterways. We remain committed to the international rules-based order and are determined to hold malign actors accountable for unlawful seizures and attacks. I don't think I need to comment on that. Yemen has responded. We will continue to prevent Israeli ships or those heading to the ports of occupied Palestine from navigating in the Red and Arabian Seas until food and medicine is brought into our brothers in the Gaza Strip. The Yemeni armed forces also confirmed that any American aggression will not go unanswered or unpunished. We warn the American enemy or others against any attack or action that represents the protection of commercial ships that go to the Zionist entity. Then it's quite interesting because the news has broken that the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier is returning home back to the US after extended deployment defending Israel. And the USS Bataan and its accompanying warships, the USS Mesa Verde and the USS Carter Hale, the three vessels had been in the Red Sea and have been transiting towards the Eastern Mediterranean. So does this mean, Mike, that they are effectively leaving the area where they might be under threat from the Yemenis? I think that's a good question to ask. Then going forward, we had basically on the 2nd of January, this was on Christmas Day, Israel assassinated Iranian commander in Damascus, General Mousavi, who was responsible really for the liaison between the resistance in Syria and the resistance in Iran, and was a very close comrade of General Qasem Soleimani. Now, he was, as I said, targeted on Christmas afternoon in a very busy civilian area, and there were casualties. So this is international aggression and terrorism under international law. Then before Christmas, we spoke about the fact that Israel is trying to push Hezbollah military to the north of the light blue line and the Litani River, invoking UN Resolution 1701 that came into effect during the 2006 war between Israel and Hezbollah. Of course, that has been unsuccessful, but the rhetoric has been very much about, for example, if they don't do so, then according to Netanyahu, Beirut will be turned into Khan Yunis, which is in the south of Gaza. So on the 2nd of January, one day after New Year, senior Hamas figure Salah al-Aruri was killed in Lebanon, in Beirut, in southern Beirut. So this is a direct attack on the capital of Lebanon in the south. And again, there were civilian casualties and there were other casualties. They targeted his home in Dahe, which is an area of southern Beirut. Who was al-Aruri? Well, the Israeli newspaper Yediot Aharonot characterized Marta Sheikh al-Aruri as the mastermind of the operations in the West Bank and who pulls the string there. The Mossad chief has been quoted as saying Israel is committed to finding and killing all Hamas leaders globally, and he mentioned the fact that they were able to target them even in Iran. And of course, then on the 3rd of January, we saw dozens killed in the Kerman explosion in Iran on the 4th anniversary of the assassination of Qasem Soleimani that was carried out under the Trump administration. Now, interestingly, Islamic State have claimed responsibility for the Iran bombings that killed at least 84 civilians that were attending his burial place in Kerman on the anniversary of his assassination, and 173 were injured. Interesting, as I said, that ISIS are claiming responsibility. ISIS, of course, is a proxy of both Israel and the United States in Syria. So one can argue, particularly after the statement by the military intelligence officer, that they would hit targets in Iran, that potentially there are Mossad hands on this attack also. And then on the 4th, we had another assassination. This has been claimed by the United States against one of the commanders of the PMU, the Popular Mobilization Forces, that have been responsible for battling ISIS inside Iraq and on the border with Syria. U.S. claims responsibility for an attack on Iraqi official in Baghdad. And again, there were civilian and other casualties after the attack. The claim by the U.S. is that they carried out this assassination because of the attacks on unlawful U.S. bases in Syria and bases in Iraq. Of course, now the Iraqi administration is demanding the exit of the U.S. occupation forces in Iraq. And I just wanted to point out here where this escalation is taking us. So we looked before Christmas at the map of Greater Israel. You can see that, in fact, 3 of the capitals have been targeted since Christmas: Damascus, Beirut, and Baghdad, and of course the heinous bombing attack against civilians in Iraq. And if you wanted any further proof that there is escalation in the pipeline, let's have a look at the defense minister of Israel's comments. Yoav Gallant said basically no top Hamas figures have been killed or captured in Gaza. On a visit to soldiers stationed there, Yoav Gallant said the government was planning for a long war, and the feeling that we will stop soon is incorrect. Without a clear victory, we will not be able to live in the Middle East. So this is turning into an existential war for the survival and existence of the Palestinian people, the survival of Israel as a military garrison for the US and UK in the Middle East, and of course the countries of the resistance axis. So inevitable escalation, Mike.
It's interesting that everywhere you look, everybody's planning for a long war. And I just
Yeah.
wonder, is the aim here with certain policymakers and strategists to try to keep things relatively low intensity, but keep extended as much as possible, because there's lots of political capital to be made from that type of strategy of tension, if we could use that term.
Yes, definitely, I would agree. But it remains to be seen, of course, the response from Hezbollah, the Iraqi resistance, and even from Syria if the Israeli aggression continues.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Vanessa.